So, someone just posted on the fountain pen Facebook group that he's looking for a pen and what should he get. And my recommendation was an old pen, a vintage pen, one made before the ballpoint was invented, because I just believe that they were made much better than modern ones, mainly because of the ink flow ability. And I asked the person to send me a picture of his handwriting and how he holds a pen. And his handwriting is very, I don't have a sample of it here to show you, but it's perfectly legible and very neat and very tidy and rather small. And it doesn't look like he applies extra pressure to get a fatter line. So he seems to not need a flexible nib, though I imagine he might enjoy one if he had one. So pens that would be good for him for basic matter-of-fact writing, not calligraphy, not drawing, but writing. A good pen that almost always will make people happy is a Sheaffer Triumph nib pen, which is what this is. It has that conical shape and the Waverly tip that's slightly bent up at the end, which makes it good for lefties to write with. And so this would be one of them, the Triumph, a Sheaffer Triumph nib from the 40s. They come in, fine or medium or broader, they're rarely a stub, though there are some, and they are rarely flexible, though there are some. But I think in his case, he would get 99% of what he wants out of a pen with a Sheaffer Triumph nib. Perfectly good pen. It'll last for 100 years. Another pen that would be good would be a Parker 51. Now, a 51, these haven't been inked. I'm just dipping them into water here. Let me find another 51 that I've been using. The 51, if you don't use them, if you forget about using them and put them away in a drawer for a couple of weeks and then go back to them, it may take them a while to get the ink moving around in them again because of the comb feed system. But if you use it every day, it's almost the perfect pen. This is a 51 Special, which is a steel nibbed version of the 51, which in the case of a 51 is almost indistinguishable from the 51. I would, rather than getting a vacuum fill one that you have to repair or get repaired most likely, getting one that has the squeezy thing here that was their later improved, as it were, I guess, pen, is almost indestructible and will last you for the rest of your life probably without a problem. Let me see if I can find a 51 that has ink in it that I can show you. Okay, here's another 51. Now this one has a broader nib. This is a vacuumatic fill, which again is working, but to get it working, if it isn't working, requires a little bit of jumping through hoops, and not everyone fixes them. And what you have to do is, because when these were originally repaired by Parker, you would buy the entire filling unit, and now you can't do that. You have to use the old filler unit, which requires some surgery to make sure that you can reuse it, and sometimes you can't, because taking out the old sack and stuff will break it. So anyway, a 51 is another good one. So we have the Sheaffer, this one, and the 51, whether it be an aerometric or a vacuum filler, just make sure it works. But they're so unbelievably indestructible, both of these pens, that I think you would be happy with it. Now, if you wanted to get a little fancy and want a pen that has some flexibility to it, you might, of course, you need to, find someone that knows what a flexible nib is and will describe it correctly. But a flexible nib will allow you to write this way and then get thick lines when you press down on the downstroke. This requires learning how to do that, which isn't that difficult. And it almost automatically happens if you write quickly, because you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're just trying to write as quickly as possible, and automatically your hand probably applies more pressure on the downstroke. But a pen like this, a Skyline, is relatively inexpensive. You have to put a sack in it or have someone put a sack in it for you, or you can buy it restored and repaired. All of these pens you should be able to get for under $100, and in some cases under $50. Though under 50 is asking for your good fairy to help you out in that way. Another pen that I've been using a lot, which is if the Skyline and if the Skyline and the Parker 51 had a love child, it might be the Waterman Taper-Rite, which has a little bit more of a nib showing than the 51, but it imitates the 51. And there is some flexible lines you can get out of this pen. These pens need a sack, so you have to make sure they're repaired when you buy them. They're not easy to repair because oftentimes these sections were almost glued into the barrel, and taking them out is not as easy as a regular pen. But this is another pen that you can find relatively inexpensively, and you can get one that writes pretty well. Now, any pen that you buy can be made more expensive or made cheaper by buying one that's in perfect condition. Will make it expensive. Buying one that has a name engraved on the side of it, or some teeth marks on the back, or some dings on the cap, or whatever, that will make the price go down. It won't make any difference to the way the pen writes. Teeth marks do not change the way the pen writes, nor does a name engraved on the side of the pen. So all of those are great pens for you to buy a gold nibbed pen to do your writing. Again, if you wanted to experiment with a flexible nib, you can do that too. Now, the reason that I suggest an older pen rather than a modern one is I have found in my drawing and in my calligraphy that I need to have a lot of ink right there at the nib all the time. And the flow has to be really, really good. And on older pens, the flow is good. On newer pens, the flow is a little stingy because pen manufacturers are afraid you're going to do, well, if there was ink in this pen, you do that and it would come out. There's a lot of ink that's right up here ready to go. And modern pens don't really have a lot of ink up there ready to go. They have ink enough to write this way, the way you write. It doesn't have ink enough for me to make big swoopy lines like this, calligraphic lines or drawing. I need to have more ink flowing all the time, and that is what old pens can do for me, but modern pens cannot. They skip. I have to draw really, really slow, and I don't do that. I draw quickly. So I like to have a lot of ink. So anyway, we have a Waterman taper right. We have a Sheaffer Triumph nib. We have a Parker 51 or a 51 Special. I wouldn't go to the 21 route, the Parker 21, because the 21 has cheaper plastic that cracks, and the Sheaffer Triumph nib and the Waterman taper right. So if you want fancy writing, then a nice rubbery flexible Skyline nib is a relatively inexpensive pen to find. Good luck. And I also have pens for sale too, by the way. Bye.